Hello everybody and welcome to this, my first of two videos on the Canon EOS Rebel XSN, also called the 3000 or the 3000N or the 66 in other markets that are not the US. The 3000M would have been the European market name and the 66 would have been the Asian market name. This is a 35mm interchangeable lens SLR. Now what that means is it can take any 35mm film, and it has interchangeable lenses which can be removed and put back on at any point when you're not taking a photo for different effects and looks. The Rebel XSN comes with a 6-zone meter with evaluative, partial, and center-weighted metering options, and in the course of this video, I'll tell you about what those do and how, not this video rather, the second video. I'll tell you more about those metering options and how to access them, because there are different restrictions that this camera puts on you for when you can and cannot use different metering options. Being an entry-level camera, which we'll cover in a minute, for instance, one of the things you can't do is just pick a metering mode and use that whenever you would like. The XSN includes shutter speeds of 30 seconds to 1/2000th of a second, as well as bulb. The viewfinder magnification is 0.7x. The viewfinder also has 90% frame coverage. So what does that mean? Okay, the viewfinder magnification means that what you see in here is going to be about 70% of the size of what it's going to be on your negative. So the viewfinder size, what you see in here is reduced from the image that's coming in through the lens. It doesn't affect your images. It just means it has a smaller viewfinder image than, say, a higher level camera, which would have a 0.95 or 98 or 1x magnification. The 90% coverage means, let's assume for a moment that what you're seeing right now is what's going to be on the film when you get your photo back from the lab. About 5% on each side and on the top and the bottom will not be in your viewfinder, but will be on your film. What you're seeing in the viewfinder is a slightly smaller area than what is actually going to be coming back on your film negative. And that's a very nice thing in terms of having some room to adjust your image once you get the digital files back. So basically, if you're completely filling the frame in your viewfinder with this camera, you'll still have a little bit of room to adjust and crop your images in digital or when you print in a darkroom. It has a fixed focusing screen when you look through the viewfinder, with autofocus points and the partial metering areas marked. And the flash sync on this camera is 1/90th of a second. The XSN was targeted at the entry-level user, and we know that because in the US, the Rebel badge is the entry-level user badge. In Europe, the 3000, the 4-digit rather, I should say, cameras were the entry levels, and in Asia and South America, where this was called the 66, the 2-digit cameras were the entry-level cameras. It's mostly plastic construction, including the lens mount, by the way. And it has a manual pop-up flash instead of one that's controlled by a motor. This really is the entriest of the entry-level cameras that Canon made in their film SLR, this tier. This would have also been along the lines of something like the EOS Rebel G, for instance. I think, no I don't. The Rebel G preceded this by a generation or two. Anyway, there are so many, so many Canon SLRs from that vintage. I do not have the whole family tree memorized. Onward. This was made by Canon in Taiwan from 2002 until 2003, preceded directly by the XS, which was the 3000. It was concurrent with the EOS 2000 Ti 7 III and 1V in terms of their EOS SLRs. And it was followed by the T2, which was also called the 3000V. Now, as we do, if you have your XSN or 3000N or 66 with you, let's go over everything that's on it and talk about what it is. In the second video, we'll talk about what everything does and how to use it for your photos. Over here, well, starting technically on the sides here, these are your strap loops. This is where you're going to connect your camera strap, either with a clip or just directly connecting your strap to it. This is the command dial right here, this whole dial. Command dial index, which tells you what the command dial is set to. Film plane indicator, pop-up flash, flash hot shoe. This is your autofocus point selection button, and you can tell that because it's got the autofocus point symbol of those 3 dots, which match the 3 dots of the 3 autofocus points that this camera offers that are marked on the viewfinder. Function button. This is your self-timer and combination film rewind button. To rewind the film halfway through the roll, you would turn this dial all the way to rewind and hold this down, and then it would rewind a partial roll of film. LCD screen with functions. Well, actually the only command wheel on this camera is right here, and this is your shutter release button. On the camera's front, we have the autofocus assist light right here, which will light up to give your camera a little bit of added light if it needs it to use autofocus in a dark space. Your lens mount, your lens mounting index, and what you do to mount a lens is you find we'll see this in the second video, the red dot, and pair it with the red dot. Because there is no white square, this camera will not mount EFS digital lenses. It will only mount EF full frame film and digital error lenses. Lens release button right here, make, model, and on some cameras it will indicate that it has a date function. This camera does. We're not going to spend any time on that in these videos because it's pretty self-explanatory and doesn't apply to every camera. On the camera's back, we have the film type window right here where you can see what type of film is loaded in your camera. Viewfinder. This is the date function with your mode and your select and your set, and this will also tell you whether or not you're going to actually imprint a date onto your film. Asterisk button, and this is your AV button. On the camera's bottom, we have the battery chamber right here. Canon Taiwan serial number, tripod socket, CE certification. On this side, we have a little switch right here that we'll use to open up the film back, like this. And now we can see what's inside of the camera. Inside here, we have the cassette chamber. This is where we'll load 35mm film in the second video. And this little orange dude right here is the rewind motor that rewinds your film. These silver plugs right here are your DX code readers. Your shutter curtains. These smooth plastic bits are the film guide rails that help keep the film flat and properly aligned as it moves through the camera. This little roller here helps keep the film moving smoothly through the camera. Film take-up spool. Film loading index. We'll see how to use this in the second video. These electronic contacts right here connect with the date function in the camera to let it know when to fire the little date function on the film back. This is a roller that helps keep tension on the film when it's sandwiched up here so that it will advance through the camera. This is your film pressure plate right here. This keeps the film flat when it's up against the shutter so that the images are properly focused. Right here is your date function window. One of these two, I'm not sure which one. I think it's just this one on this model right here. This will imprint the date information in your frames as you take the photo. This spring helps retain the cassette when the film door is closed, and this little sponge here keeps light from leaking in the window that allows you to see what type of film is loaded in the camera. So some tips for using this camera. As I mentioned, this will not accept EFS mount lenses. Right here I have an EFS mount lens, and you can see the white square as opposed to the red dot of the EF mount lens. And nothing. It's not going to go on. Also, the XSN will not reliably accept third-party lenses. So for instance, this Yongnuo right here will not work on this camera at all. I'll show you what happens so that you recognize the problem that this can cause. We're just going to set this in manual. So let me take the lens off first. And as you can see, everything's working fine. Shutter speed, indicator, whatever. I can fire the shutter and it's working. But the second I put this third-party lens on, we're going to switch it to manual focus just to keep things simple. Watch the screen. It's flashing a dead battery. That's telling me that it's not going to like this lens. This is the indicator right here that the lens is not communicating with the camera. Let's take a look at something else that it's doing when this happens. If we give us a nice slow shutter speed, we can see that the shutter opens, right? If we put the Yongnuo lens on the front, the shutter does not open. So it will advance the film, it will pretend like it's taking a picture, but the shutter will not actually open to take a picture. And it's not just Yongnuo lenses. That also can happen with a lot of Sigma lenses and Tamrons and things like that. So that is, I can't tell you whether or not that was built into the camera intentionally by Canon, or whether it's just a function of the age of the lens, but I've used other XSN, XS, Rebel G, EOS 2000 cameras over the years with Sigma lenses and Tamrons, Pro Masters, and had the exact same issue. So as a general statement, the most reliable lens use with this camera is going to be a Canon brand EF mount lens. And if you don't stray from that, you're never going to be disappointed with your camera not working properly when you put the lens on it. So some things not to do with your camera. You don't want to, if possible, you want to avoid touching the mirror, and you definitely don't want to touch the shutter. Now there are exceptions to that. I do have a video that you can find on my channel that shows how to clean an SLR mirror. You can do it gently, but don't like stick your thumb on it or something like that. Don't pick up the camera like this and carry it around like that. Try to keep that mirror clean because it's surface coated silver, and if you damage it, it will affect your viewfinder brightness, your autofocus capability, potentially your autofocus capability, and almost certainly your metering. Also, don't touch the shutter. One of the most common failures I've seen over the years in the many hundreds of EOS Rebel cameras, film SLRs that I've used, are fingerprints or oil on the shutter leaves, and that's something that really might not immediately but will over time cause the shutters to fail. Don't leave your camera and lenses in a plastic bag or box unless you have a really good rechargeable desiccant pack in there, not like something you would get with whatever coat you bought, for this past winter or something, but a good and rechargeable desiccant pack that you keep recharged. Don't leave your camera or lenses in your car because heat can cause lubricating oils in these to get really thin and then get to places they shouldn't be. And when they get back to their normal temperature, oh, now you have oil in places it shouldn't be. And also cold can cause those oils to freeze and become thick and gummy, and then mechanical parts don't work correctly. Plus, leaving a camera on your car, one that quite honestly still kind of looks like a digital camera to the untrained eye, is a really good way to come out to your car and find a broken window and no camera. Don't let this camera get wet. It is not weather sealed and it is electronic, so water could absolutely ruin this camera. Does that mean don't take it out if it's sprinkling or misty out or foggy outside? No, I wouldn't go to that extreme. But don't take this out in a heavy rain. Don't take it whitewater rafting. Don't even take it out in like really a light rain. And just remember that your Canon EOS Rebel XSN is a precision tool that should be handled with care and respect. And as long as you take care of your camera will take care of you. Thank you everyone for watching. If this video was helpful and useful to you, please give me a thumbs up. That lets me know that I'm on the right track and that I'm producing and creating content which is helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave those in the comments section below. I'm pretty good about responding every couple of days and answering whatever questions you have to the best of my ability. If you'd like to subscribe to find out when I have more videos about how to use cameras, photographic techniques, or the best practices for the tools of the trade, by all means please subscribe and check that notifications bell to be alerted when new content arrives. If you'd like to support the channel by joining with a membership, there are now membership options for this channel at different tiers that will give you different benefits if you would be interested in that. And one last thing, thank you everyone very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next videos. Won't we, Steinbeck? What's that look about?